Well, g'day everybody. So we're back here in Les Sables d'Olonne, and just got here about an hour ago, and the house is really cold, so I've got a jacket on. But anyway, good to be back, and there's a bit of fun happening on the water in lots of areas. My phone just went hot with messages popping in everywhere 15 minutes ago, just in relation to a few different things with the start, the finish line, and RENAUD being in. Which is good to see. Dan's still stuck out there in light winds by the look of it, and a few other bits and pieces. So plenty to talk about. I'll go straight into the pictures, and those coming in later we can catch up with the replay. So if I hit this, I'll explain what's going on. There's RENAUD coming down the river, flying his flags and got his lee cloths up. Ooh, jeepers, good on you, RENAUD. And well done on knocking that one off. That was quite a challenging trip. I'm sure he's happy to be there. That's for certain. So boat looking good. We're going backwards a bit here. That's someone out on a boat with them. I'm not sure who it was. Maybe it was Vince. Vince is doing a great job. OCC, Ocean Cruising Club port officer, I think they call him. Quite an amazing story in itself, the way that works. But anyway, got everything organised. The marina's all ready for them, and the Royal Natal Yacht Club's given them temporary membership for about a year or something, and going to give them discounts and all sorts of things. So big reception waiting for everyone. So thanks, Vince, and the team there. And this is the finish line. I think we mentioned it the other day. We moved it because originally it was across the end of the breakwater, and it's now a latitude line. And we picked an easterly extent close off, which is where that flag is, and it's in line with the eastern breakwater there. That's where it finishes. But unbeknown to us, they've got shark nets here. Now, what's a shark net? Well, basically, it's a big net there to catch any big sharks, like white pointers, and there's a lot in South Africa. And when the sharks get caught up in the nets, they die. And when I think this is the style. This is what happens in Australia anyway. They put shark nets offshore. The sharks get hooked up. When the sharks die, dead sharks are actually a shark repellent. The sharks, when there's dead sharks around, the other sharks don't want to hang out there. So it's knocks off some of the quantity of sharks, and sort of has a tendency to keep other sharks away as well. And they can swim around the net and still get into the beach. This is what happens in Australia anyway. And they're very controversial as well, because a lot of beautiful big sharks get killed, and whales get hooked up in the shark nets in Australia and all that sort of stuff. So everyone's got different opinions, but not good getting eaten by a shark. In Australia, there's more and more people get into trouble with sharks, but it's their backyard, so I haven't got an opinion either way. And then I doubt whether it's a shark enclosure where it comes off the beach, like to net out a swimming pool area where people go, because it's a long way out. RENAUD reported the boys in the shark net, and I knew nothing about the shark nets there, and it's about halfway along this yellow line, because we just put the beach as the western extremity. So now that I've got that information, we'll just refine it a bit, make a modification, and tell everyone they've got to be in the eastern half of the line. It's a strong recommendation because there's a shark net there, which we didn't know about. So it's good to have the info. I showed you these the other day. This is Durban, nice looking place. I've got to admit, I didn't really have a vision of what it looked like, but it looks pretty cool. That's the entrance coming into the harbour. You can get all this off. This is just straight off Google Maps, and then the street view situation. And this is where the start line is obviously out here somewhere in the middle of this picture. So it's plenty of room if it's blowing hard from the north and so on. So and this was RENAUD's finishing photograph of crossing the line. I think it was. I can't see where he is. Maybe he was over the side here. But this is what we asked for. That's the latitude line. I think it was about right. I'll check it. Maybe he's given me this just to show you where the shark net was, because RENAUD's saying it's around about here somewhere, and it's then over to the beach. So we'll watch that. Anyway, that's all kind of good to see the first one in. And they did a pretty good deal on that. And the previous chart plotter position, Dan was only 12.5 miles behind RENAUD. So 4 hours ago, he was 12.5 miles behind. Now that RENAUD snuck in on that, Dan's sitting there with no wind by the look of the other posts. So let's just have a look and see what's going on there. So here you're now on the tracker, and I'm on the tracker here as well. So you can see there, we won't go to the currents yet, but this is the 1600 position. Kerry's rocketing down on that. He's doing pretty well, but we'll let's go to the here. This was funny. This was a glitch in the system. Here's the yellow line here coming down. That's actually RENAUD's plot, the track. But when he got to here, it went bingo and shot across down the bottom here on the next 4 hours. And then 4 hours later, he's back there. So, and in reality, he sailed pretty much where those two lines join up. So we had a bit of a laugh about that, because Dan would have been, if he'd seen it, he said, "Where's RENAUD going? What's he doing? Blah, blah, blah." But he didn't. He held true and he followed him in. And now it's showing this is the 1600. Yes, that's the 1600. 1600 for RENAUD as well. That means he wasn't, let's just blow this up. He wasn't, he's crossed the finish line, but he wasn't very far down, because he probably had light winds. Why can't I get him up any higher here? Oh, don't tell me. We're on Starlink again. Here we go. Okay, so he's in the harbour, and that's a mile and a bit, 2 miles. So, he hasn't been finished long. Okay, with this one, I'd say probably an hour or so. Let's just measure the distance, because Dan won't be moving very fast right now. Yeah, there he goes. He was 12 and a bit miles behind RENAUD at one point. He's made a little bit of ground. He's only 11.5 miles out, and if we take him to the finish line, which is probably about there, he's probably about 12 miles from the finish line, and we'll see how long it takes. But you can see there's not much wind. So we'll come back to that when we look at all the currents and bits and pieces, but let's look at the whole fleet. Kerry's doing all right there. He's not that far behind. Amazing when you think of everything they've been through. They're still pretty close. And you can see here, besides the fact that we have 256 days out. Oops, I've gone a little bit high there. 256 days out. I'm going to put the grids in here and then come back to this lot. Everyone's struggling with currents. Now, I think at this point, we'll open up the currents, because I think it's easier to show you where they're sitting in the current stream in relation to the weather and the wind and everything. It explains their previous track. So before I go through the bits and pieces, let's go to the currents. Okay, so the currents have been dictating pretty much everything that's been happening. So Josh came roaring down here, hooking up in the big groove, and then all of a sudden turned left to get out. I've got a report from him as well. Jasmine is looking good. She's got a slight head current there to push her through. Adam is looking good. You can see he came down with it, and then no wind, drifting. He got pushed back with the current, and then he managed to sail across this one, and now he's looking very good. If he can he'll keep moving onto that, and then he'll get a ride on this one. Jacob's doing pretty well, on par with Adam as well. And Peeler took that big, bold move. This was, at the time she was dipping down here and going backwards. Jacob was over here. And so Peeler gave that explanation, a little video clip, I think it was, that's saying she's committed. She's got to get down and underneath it, get south to meet the wind quicker that way as well. And it pretty much has done okay, because now you look at her, she's not that far behind Jacob. Okay, she's going to, well, it depends where she goes. She might run along the edge here, but she might dip up into it and get a hook around, depending on the planning for the wind. And I haven't looked at the wind going in from here yet. But anyway, she's looking okay. And down the back here, they had no wind. Basically, the currents were driving the boats. They're drifting back. Christian was way back there. Ayrton was the same, just waiting for it to stop, sailing against the current. Now they are sailing against the current. Eric went, where's Eric's track? I can't see it here.